Hello and welcome back to the OTB channel. Today I'm going to look at the Budgie desktop on Solus. As you know, I tried to show you the Budgie desktop when I did the Anarchy installation, but at the time there was something wrong with Arch and Budgie. It just wouldn't work together. That seems to have sorted itself out now and everything's working fine. But I thought, well, hold on. Why show Arch's version of Budgie or Ubuntu's version of Budgie? Let's go back to the source. It was developed by the Solus developers, and I always prefer to go back to where a distro or a desktop environment came from. So I'm going to look at Solus as well, which is another independent thing. It's not based on anything else. It's its own thing. It's not been around for that long, only a few years, but it seems to be quite popular. It's climbing up the distro watch charts for, I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but people are enjoying it, they're liking it. It comes with various desktop environments, but Budgie is the one it has developed. It's based on GNOME 3, but it's a long way from GNOME 3, as you'll see. So let's go and have a look at that. I'm going to do an installation and a quick run through. If I could just remind you before we start, it would be great if you could like and subscribe. Okay, let's go. You should see my main desktop in front of you now. And as you can see, I have Virtualbox open, and there's actually two versions of Solus showing in it. Because I've never actually played with Solus at all, I decided that I'd install it and have a little bit of a play and an installation, etc., etc., just to get a feel of what it's all about. I then cloned that, deleted the virtual hard drive, and I'm going to start from scratch using the Solus clone entry. And I'm going to boot from the Solus ISO file and show you the installation process. Once that's finished, we'll go back and look at the install system. So normal setup, I've given it 8 gig of RAM. I've set up a 32 gig virtual hard drive. I've given it 32 megs of video memory. And yeah, I've given it 2 cores or threads of my i5 processor. So let's hit start and see what happens. Starting it in full screen, and we get the boot menu. I'll just hit let's go, start Solus from here, and we get all the overlays on Virtualbox as normal, which I find quite annoying, I have to be honest, but never mind. And we should boot into the Solus desktop very shortly. And there we go. I'm not going to go around the desktop now. I'm going to leave the exploration, shall we say, until it's actually installed. But it's a very clean looking interface. I can't say I particularly like the wallpaper, but that's neither here nor there. To install Solus, we have this icon on the left, Launch Install OS. So let's follow along and see what happens now that we've clicked that. Okay, so we're given the option of setting our language. I don't see English UK there. Let's see if it's got it as an option further down. Oops. Not exactly. Ah, there we are. English United Kingdom. Great. Next. The next few questions relate to your location. To speed things up, the installer can perform a quick check to detect where you are. Okay, let's let it do that. And it's found me. And yes, I do want an English UK keyboard. And it's picked the correct time zone. And what do I want to do? Well, let's just use the automatic option and let it automatically partition the disk and install a fresh copy of Solus. Do I want LVM? No, I don't. We'll just go for a basic installation. What name should the computer use on the network? Well, let's just go with Solus. Install a bootloader? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not setting this up in UEFI mode. I'm trying to keep it quite simple. So click Next and username. Usual OTB, real name OTB, and we'll set the password. And again. This user should have admin capabilities. I'm presuming by that it means that sudo should be enabled for that user. We'll click Add Now. OK. Click Next. So it gives us the options now. I'm not sure what installer this is. It doesn't exactly look like Calamari. It may well be a custom built version by the Solus team. So language is set to UK, installation, yeah, it's an MS-DOS partition table. It's creating a 1 gig swap partition, not entirely necessary on a VM, but no problem. It's created my user OTB, and the host name is Solus. Let's just install. It's going to make changes. Are we happy with that? Yes, we are. And off it goes. Let me just pause this and we'll come back once it's finished. Okay, so that took 5 or 6 minutes. Not bad at all. And it's now asking me to restart. So I'm going to actually shut this down and I'm going to launch the installation that I did earlier, and we'll take a look around the interface. Right, so that's the installed version that I've just shown you shut down, and I'm moving on to the version that I've already installed. So I've highlighted Solus. Let's click Start and let's run it in full screen mode. Interestingly, I noticed it runs in full screen right from the word go, so it obviously has the guest editions already installed. And that was very fast. I have to say that was incredibly fast. Let me just log in. Right, and so we have the desktop environment in front of us, looking exactly the same as for the install version. I'm not quite sure. Oh, it's now Software Center, that icon, rather than the installer. Let's have a look at Software Center. I should say, before we go any further, that when I first installed this earlier on today, I ran a full update. I went to updates and I got a number of different pieces of software highlighted as needing to be installed. I clicked all of them. There was 3 main categories and I clicked all of them, and it started to look like it was downloading them, but then it just hung and nothing seemed to happen. So I came out of this and I tried a category at a time rather than trying to do the full update of everything. That then worked. However, I have found a few issues, I should say, with this Software Center right from the word go. For instance, I installed Chrome, and using the Software Center, the installation seemed to hang. It wasn't showing as completed. So I came out of this, but I actually found that Chrome had installed. So, hey ho, not perfect, but it is what it is. So we can go into a whole range of different categories here. Let's look at multimedia and graphics. And we go to another section, general multimedia software. So there's not that much in there by the look of it. Caffeine. Let's try installing Caffeine. So if I click on install, the following dependencies need to be installed to continue. OK. Put in my password and see what happens. There was quite a big update that came down the line, and there's been a few changes that I've noticed. So those little glitches with the software center may well have been fixed by now. So it's downloading all the different packages there. Seems to be going quite fast. Installed 47 of 47. Well, that was very quick if that's the case. And it says it's installed. Is this now in the menu, which we'll have a look at in a second? I assume that's going to be sound and video. And yes, Caffeine. Right. Okay, so that all worked lovely. So hopefully the updates have sorted it out. We can click on install to see exactly what we've actually got on the system. They offer third-party applications out of the box. I don't know if these are flat packs or snaps, to be honest. You can see already that I've installed Google Chrome. What else have we got in here? Android Studio, NPass, Git Kraken, Google Earth, Google Talk. Not a lot of use in the UK, I'm afraid. And as we go down, Plex, Skype, Spotify, TeamViewer, etc., etc. Okay, well, it's nice to have them there to be able to just go into them. We have a search box. Let's just search for something I use. How about OBS Studio? Okay, OBS Studio is there. What about Kden Live? Kden Live's there. What about OpenShot? OpenShot's there as well. So, okay, all good. This is a relatively new distro, so it may not have everything in there that you normally use, but from what I've seen, it has a pretty good set of options. If I go to settings, automatically check for updates, enable checking for updates on metered connections, how often to check, type of updates I want to be notified about, all of them. Okay, so a fairly straightforward software center. I quite like the look of it, to be honest. I'm not a great lover of these software stores, so that's a simpler interface and it suits me better. What we do have, though, within Solus, and you won't be surprised to know this, I'm sure, is a command line package manager called EO package. Let me just see if I can bring something up. Back to basics, EO package. So, installing software, sudo EO package install. Reinstalling, okay, EO package install, -- reinstall. Uninstalling, EO package remove. Updating, EO package upgrade. So it follows the same sort of syntax as the likes of apt or yum even. I did actually earlier on have a go at doing an update via the package manager, and it was a simple case of typing in sudo eo package update. It prompted me for my password, and what have I done? Upgrade, should it be? Yes, it's upgrade. It looks through the repositories and no packages to upgrade. It's all up to date. If I was going to use this as my main desktop operating system, much as I'm using Arch at the moment, I would tend to upgrade via the command line anyway. I normally find that it's more reliable. So it has its own package manager, basically because this is not a distribution that is based on another distro. You know, it's not based on Ubuntu, it's not based on Debian, it's not based on Arch. It's been built from scratch, so it makes sense that they have their own package manager. Let's have a quick look then at the desktop. So it's very clean, as you can see. Does anything happen if I right click? Yeah, okay, new folder. Organize desktops by name. Okay, I presume that's if I have multiple desktops. Change background. Now, when I first installed this, there were only these two backgrounds in place. After I did the upgrade, I've noticed that we have a lot more choice. More backgrounds have come down the line. And there's some nice wallpapers there. I'm not quite sure which one I would go for. Let's just try pick something plain. Oh, so you can set the background and lock screen simply from here. So that's quite nice. Let's have a look at that. I think I prefer that background to the standard one. It's nice and clean. Okay, so do the upgrade if you don't see any other backgrounds, and you will get more added to the mix. So it has a right-click menu. I'll say that again if I can take my teeth out. It also has an open terminal option. I quite like that, to be honest. And it has what I would describe as a panel down here on the bottom. It doesn't seem to react to right or left click at all. Okay, but it clearly has a system tray there. And what have we got in the system tray at the moment? I'm not getting... oh, I'm getting a little notifier there telling us volume's at 100%. And if I click the notification applet, nothing to see. What does that do? Oh, that's my internet connection. There's obviously the shutdown icon there, the clock, and this little icon in the bottom right hand corner, which looks almost like an exit icon, but if I click on that, it brings up something called the Raven menu. Okay, well, at the moment, this Raven menu seems to have nothing in it except for a calendar. If I click on the settings icon there, it will bring up my Budgie desktop settings, where I can set widgets, which I presume are going to be the icons on the desktop. Perhaps not. Let's have a quick look. Let's change it to Plata Noir or Lumen. Doesn't seem to be doing a lot at the moment. Compact. Okay. Oh, Plata. Not sure what that does. Icons, it's using the Papyrus. By default, I actually like them. Add waiter cursors and the notification position top right. Okay, let's have a look at top left. Nothing seems to be changing here, so I'm going to go top right again. We've got the dark theme. Right, so I can just unclick that and we get the light theme immediately. Animations, okay, it tells us whether or not we're going to have animations. An animated desktop, compositing presumably. Let's go down to the next menu entry, which is desktop. Will we have desktop icons? Clearly I've got them at the moment. My home folder is on the top left and also the waste basket. But of course this is built on GNOME 3 and GNOME 3 doesn't by default have desktop icons, or at least it never used to. So you click on that to allow it. Home directory, so I can click it on and off. Network servers, well I haven't got any, but there we are, we can bring that up. The rubbish bin and mounted volumes. Okay, well again, haven't got any at the moment. Number of virtual desktops, okay, we can set them all from there, all good. We move down to the fonts menu. Okay, it seems to be using the Noto fonts, the Google fonts. Fine, and it's set up for LCD screens already. And then we get to the Raven menu. Right, allows raising the volume via sound settings as well as the sound input widget in Raven up to 150%. I don't really want to raise volume above 100%. So enable display of week numbers in the calendar, show the calendar widget, show the sound output widget, show the microphone widget. Does it show me all of those? Ah, so let's have a look. What have we got? Applets. Well, all I'm actually seeing here is the settings, the lock screen, and I presume something that asks me if I want to log out, which I don't. So that's a little bit strange, I think. Microphone input widget. Aha! I've just realised why I'm looking at this. Initially, when I launched it, there was all the sound settings there and input sources, but I was getting some distortion through my microphone on the recording when I had sound actually enabled in the virtual machine. So I turned it off. Hence the reason we're not seeing them in the Raven menu. My fault entirely, nothing to do with Solus. Okay, great. So all your sound outputs are normally there. And if you are playing music, you also get the little controls down here. The power strip, which is no doubt this, is at the bottom. If I click that off, yeah, it's not there. Okay, so the Raven menu, it's fairly simple. I'm struggling a little bit to see the point of it, if I'm honest. So I've got my calendar there, well, and my notifications there. I suppose my notifications display wouldn't be something I would particularly use looking at it from here, but hey-ho. The next entry is Windows. Attach modal dialogues to Windows. Do you know something? I've got not a clue what that is, but what does it say? Modal dialogues will become attached to the parent window and move together when dragged. Okay, fine. We can change the button layout. We can center new windows on the screen. Center newly launched windows on the screen. That's quite nice. Let's see if that works. Let's launch a terminal. Okay, and it's exactly centered on the screen. If I turn that off and launch a terminal, right, okay. It's a nice have. Disable night light mode when windows are full screen. Automatic tiling. Windows focus, unidirection of windows. Okay, apparently something if you're having issues with graphics. Fine, so there's a few settings there. And the bottom panel. Right, so what does this actually give us? This gives us what's actually here. So we can see Budgie menu, the icon task list. The icon task list. I presume that's almost like the window display. When you've got something open, it'll show here on the panel. So let's open a terminal. Yes, exactly. So we've got the settings in the terminal there. And then what do we have at the system tray? Well, we have all these icons on the bottom right. And we can choose a new applet to add to the panel. Right, okay. So we can customize it slightly. Nice to have. And we have a settings here. So where do we want the panel to be? At the moment it's set to bottom. What about... Right, so it's really easy to put it at the top. I'm just going to put it back at the bottom. Or we can put it to the left or the right. Let's put it to the right. So you can basically have that panel wherever you want. You can set the size of it. So let's make it a bit smaller. Okay. That's nice. Automatically hide the panel from view to maximize screen estate. Okay, great. Control when the panel should have a solid background. Let's have a look. Aha! So, instant transparent panel. I quite like the way that does that very quickly. Drop shadow effects, stylize region, add a hint to the panel. So each of the panel's 3 main areas may be themed differently. Okay. And dock mode. When in dock mode, the panel will use the minimal amount of space possible, freeing up valuable screen estate. Well, let's hit the button and see what it does. Oh, right. So to me, that looks almost like a plank dock. So you can turn it into whatever you want. Let's just knock that off again. We can create other panels, and we have an auto start option here if we want any particular programs to start when the system boots. Quite nice so far. The absence of a right-click menu on the panel is a little bit disconcerting, but I've played around with this. Let me just open a terminal. If we wanted to keep the terminal on the panel, what you have to do is you have to right-click it and set it as a favourite. If we set it as a favourite, it stays there. If we wanted to unset it as a favourite, we do the same thing and we just unfavourite it. Unfavourite it. So, okay. So, once you figure out a slightly different workflow, I think we use that name here, but it's not necessarily a problem. We can add whatever we want on this panel. So, let's have a look at the main menu. I don't know what kind of menu this is, and right-clicking doesn't really tell us. So I'm going to assume here that this menu is, again, something specific to Solus and Budgie. It's fairly straightforward. Accessories, what does it come with? Text editor. Is that Gedit? We'll soon see. It is. It's Gedit. Okay. Files. And let's see what that is. If it gives us the option to actually find out, which it doesn't seem to here. It's a long time since I've used GNOME, but hey-ho, it's your file manager. Passwords and keys. Okay. Graphics. We've got the GIMP. Now I've installed a few packages and I can't honestly remember if I installed the GIMP or it was already there. Either way, if it isn't there, it's easy to install using the Software Center. We've got some LibreOffice stuff there. Photos. Okay, what's that? About Photos. Oh, it's just called Photos. It's perhaps a GNOME package. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the packages by default are GNOME. Move down to the internet. It comes with Firefox and as standard, I've installed Google Chrome here. It also comes with the Transmission BitTorrent client. You've got all of LibreOffice there, which is great. And I've obviously just installed Caffeine now. GNOME MPV comes as default. I can't remember if Rhythmbox and VLC were installed when I first installed the system. I might have installed them by the package manager, but if not, easy enough to put them in place. We then have system settings, which gives us all of our information about applications, Bluetooth, color. Oops. I don't know what I've just opened there. Let's go down to system settings again. I wanted to click on color because I'm not quite sure what that application is. And nothing seems to be opening. Let's try that again. Color. Each device needs an up-to-date color profile to be color managed. Okay. Whatever. Right, so back to system settings. So hardware drivers, keyboard shortcuts, mouse, network, printers, etc., etc. And even an entry for Wacom tablets or Wacom tablets. It's a long time since I've used a Wacom tablet. I seem to remember buying one many years ago. It was really hard to get them working. So if this distro is already set up for them, great. What about printers? Let's have a look. So I have to unlock this to start off with. Let's just try to add a printer. And let's search. No printers found. Okay, so for some reason it isn't seeing my network printer. So let's just type Canon in and see if it finds anything. Not at the moment. Okay. I'm not going to hold that against it at the moment because it may need cups and other things installing, but currently it's not seeing my network printer. But this is a virtual machine, so could be something to do with that. Online accounts, power, printers, Software Center. Software Center we've already looked at, and users. Let's go down to System Tools. Okay, so we've got gparted installed by default. I'm never overly sure whether gparted should be on a newly installed system. You can do an awful lot of damage with it, and if a brand new user, completely new to Linux, started playing with that, might not be such a good idea, but hey ho. And we have two settings, Budgie desktop settings. So we've already looked at that. Okay. And we have another settings option there, just called settings. Right. And this gives us, okay, our standard display. As you can see, it's in 1080 at the moment. It gives us the opportunity to set up keyboard shortcuts, mouse and touchpad, printers, well, we've gone to that already. Removable media, little menu to say what you want to do if we insert such and such. Thunderbolt. Okay. and we're back to colour. I have to be honest, why can't both settings be bundled together? I presume one is specifically for Budgie and the other is for GNOME. I sort of understand why it's been done, but I would personally prefer it if there was some sort of bringing together of those two settings. It would make it more of a cohesive experience. Universal access, okay. Utilities, we've got an archive manager. Disks, that'll be GNOME disks. An image viewer, a screenshot program, and system monitor. 855 megs currently showing in memory. Let's just launch HTOP. I don't know if it's already installed, but we'll soon find out. No, it's not. So let's try sudo eo package install HTOP. Password. Okay, looks like that's worked. And now type HTOP. Okay, so that's telling us we're running at 648 megs of RAM. Do you know, for something based on GNOME 3, that isn't that bad, given the fact that we're also running this in a VM. And I always distrust any sort of resource usage comparisons when we're running it in a VM. But so, okay, that's fine. Let's close the terminal. So that's Solus and Budgie. It's quite nice. As many of you who watch this channel will know, I am not the greatest fan of GNOME 3. I was very much a fan of GNOME 2, and I did try and like GNOME 3 when the transition happened, and I stuck with it for, you know, about a year before I gave up and eventually went to XFCE and then subsequently Mate. I've heard a lot of people say that Budgie is what GNOME 3 should have been. And I can understand where they're coming from. If this is what GNOME 3 had looked like when the transition from GNOME 2 took place, I think I might well have still been with it. It was the whole way that GNOME 3 seemed to act, as if it was assuming it was being run on a tablet and you needed a touch screen. That's always the way it seemed to me, GNOME 3. It's never seemed right for a desktop setup. That's a subjective point of view. I prefer something that looks a little bit more like this. It strikes me that this would be very easy to set up with one or two panels to look like Mate, GNOME 2, or whatever you wanted. It's set up in what I call Windows style at the moment, with the panel on the bottom, and it's not too complicated. We had the little issues with the software center. They only happened prior to me upgrading the system, so they might have been a glitch that's now been sorted, and I'm a little bit dubious about having two settings programs. I would like to see them put together. And as for Raven, well, okay, not so sure I'd use it a lot, but generally speaking, I'm pretty blown away with this. It booted incredibly fast and it looks like a nice clean system. So let's have a chat. So that was Solus with Budgie. First impressions? I do like it. There are lots of desktop environments out there. There are lots of distros. And I am not of the mind that we've got enough and we don't need any more. For me, the more the merrier. That's what Linux is all about. Let's take Solus to start off with. I saw no problems with it. It has a different package manager, and it would take a little while to get used to the EO package syntax. But at the end of the day, I could always create aliases to maintain the commands that I use. So not a big issue, really. It's a rolling release. I like that. Probably hasn't got as much built-in software as something like Arch, but it's getting there. And it seems to have the majority of packages that I use anyway. It booted very quickly. I have no issues with it at all. As for Budgie, I've come away with an impression that actually I found more to like than not to like. Yes, there were the niggles that we had two settings, packages or programs, should I say, and I had a few issues using the software center initially before the upgrade, but niggles that I'm sure have now been sorted out. I do quite like the clean lines of the interface. For me personally, and this is just subjective, I prefer the look of it to GNOME 3. Would I use it? Yeah, I think I could. I think we use that term. Could I live in it? Yes, I could live in it. I don't have a problem with that. Will I live in it? No, I don't need to, because I'm very happy with the Mate interface. But if I had to swap from the Mate interface, Budgie would certainly be a contender for number 2, perhaps alongside XFCE. So I'm going to be watching how it develops. I'm not so sure about that Raven menu. I can't see that I'd necessarily use it that much. But of course I'd disable the audio, so all the audio controls weren't there anyway. But yeah, it was a nice distro and a desktop environment that I think has certainly got potential. It's already good enough to use. I know it's still in active development, and lots of distributions are now releasing Budgie versions, so the more the merrier. Let's see how it goes on. Right, so that's it for today, and hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed that video. Below you'll see a couple of links to other videos that I've recorded, and please click the logo button to subscribe to the channel. It really helps.